Resident Evil 4 originally released in 2005. 16 years later, I finally had a chance to play and complete it. I came away from it absolutely loving it and its gameplay. But one major thing that stuck out to me was even though they innovated and deviated from the classic RE formula, Resident Evil 4 still borrows from its predecessor's design but updates it for a new perspective and gameplay style. Without further ado, let's begin.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Dating back to 1996, Capcom released the original Resident Evil, which helped to define the survival horror genre. But that's not what I'm getting into today. What I'm looking at is its combat. While not being mechanically rich or deep, the OG RE games had an emphasis on spacing yourself to deal with enemies or to run past them. If you chose to fight, you'd have to pick a good position to deal with all incoming threats and make sure that there's enough space so that you don't get overwhelmed. And if you do end up getting overwhelmed, that there's enough space to reposition yourself. Like I said before, while the mechanics for combat in these games aren't anything too deep or complex, the nuance and strength of it comes from the player making the decision of where to plant themselves to deal with enemies while also thinking ahead if the plan fails, making for some tense and fun gameplay. Fast forwarding to RE4, it's impressive with a new perspective and a greater emphasis on action that it still follows this design to a T, while adding depth to its combat with the enemy QTEs that pop up when you shoot an enemy in the head or the legs. These attacks can either be a kick that helps with crowd control or a beautiful suplex that deals damage, incentivizing the player to be more attentive with where they're aiming to either save ammo or make dealing with multiple enemies more manageable. You can also just shoot their feet till they fall flat on the ground and knife them till they're dead. Whatever you want to do, the choice is yours. Through my playthrough of RE4, I wondered why dodging is something you can only do when there's a QTE that tells you to dodge. My guess is that it plays into the whole idea of spacing yourself in these games I mentioned earlier. If you happen to let enemies get too close to you, then it's more or less your fault for allowing it to happen. If you had a dodge that you could always access, then spacing yourself just wouldn't matter and would make combat simple and boring, due to there being no risks involved to always have you adapt into the situation. Just like the merchant who helps Leon do the same. Gone are the days of storing everything into an item box, and here in its place is the merchant who supplies you with healing items, new weapons, and weapon upgrades. Unlike in the OG RE3 where you could have made better weapons with parts you get off Nemesis, RE4 opts to make you directly upgrade the weapon of your choice, and with there being stronger weapons as the game progresses, the devs made it so when you're selling your old upgraded one to replace it, the price it sells for is reflective of how much money you put into the old one, encouraging you to never truly get attached to your weapons but to still power up what you have till then, so you can always deal with whatever the game throws at you. Thanks to these changes, I see why RE4 is a lot of people's favorite RE game. While it carries it into a new direction, there's enough attention to what made the original games work so well thrown in and updated that it just makes for one great Resident Evil game. Thanks for watching. What I'm looking at is its combat. While not being mechanically rich or deep, the OG RE games had an emphasis of spacing your mother. Dating back to 1996, Capcom released the original Resident Evil, which helped to define the horror survival genre, make combat simple and boring, due to there being no risks involved till then, so you can always deal with whatever the game throws up. Wow.